at least elected. But we all know representation doesn't really matter.
Hatcher in Gary, Indiana. What you saw for the first time was African Americans being able to access economic capital in this country. Maynard Jackson gets elected in '73. African Americans were receiving 0.0012% of all city contracts in Atlanta. I didn't say 1%. I didn't say 0.5%. I didn't say 0.12. They were 0.0012% of all city contracts. Maynard Jackson comes in. He says, ain't going to happen, not when you have a city that the significant number of African Americans. The reason Atlanta is called the Black Mecca today, because economically, you're part of that particular process. When you talk about Prince George's County being
I'm gonna stop right there. He was able to tell you the percentage of the amount of government contracts that we were receiving prior to Marion Barry. What I was waiting to hear was the percentage that it has increased since him. But he just says that's why you call Atlanta the Black Mecca. And this, how do I know it? How do I know it increased? And maybe it did, but you did. How you gonna stop right there? You were supposed to say that before Marion Barry, and you did all this extra shit in between. You were supposed to say before Marion Barry it was a 0.0021 whatever percent of government contracts given to black folks. Since Marion Barry came in, he said no more, no more. He was able to go out and rally together a bunch of government contracts together, and specifically was allocated those to black Americans. And he was able to move that number. So now they're receiving 4, 5, 6% of the government contracts. You didn't say none of that.
Being called today the richest black county in the country based upon home values. A lot of that is because of, again, contracting opportunities that came when Marion Barry was mayor, and then coming out of that. Now,
the reason why they call it this is because of contracting opportunities that came about because of Marion Barry. He didn't say what specifically, but you just believe it. And that's one city out of the whole United States, one small city, when there's black economic plight all throughout. And I understand, you can't cure it all at the same time. Well, maybe you can with reparations federally, but come on now. I mean, let's see what else he says.
What you have, and when you're talking about the black community, and when you're looking at overall, you have to look at the fact of the matter is this here. African Americans have been technically fully free Americans for only 53 years.
That is true. That's something I used to say all the time. Black people really haven't been fully free for quite some time. To a degree, on a federal, national level, yeah. I mean, so I think about it as, even my own grandma said she used to pick cotton, whether it was as a slave or was it just as a particular job that she had at the time. I kind of got questions about that based upon other things. But regardless, we were slaves for quite some time. So when people say you need to pull yourselves up by your bootstraps, I mean, it took white folks lots of years to cultivate America and to move it up to the point to where it is. And of course, that was with a lot of foundational black Americans' help. But either way, I say it all the time too.
53. 64 Civil Rights Act, 65 Voting Rights Act, 68 Fair Housing Act, and you still were dealing with being locked out.
He's saying that the question is why, got somebody's fire alarm going off. The question is why, with all this voting for the Democratic Party that the black people have done, hasn't it helped us over the years or better us?
Okay. When you look at it, look.
So I guess what he's saying, Jim Crow, all that stuff, and that's true. Jim Crow, all that stuff has been a definite detriment on the economic state of black people, the education issues, as far as the funding allocation for urban schools, many things. But let's go.
Comes the money. If you're not having a money conversation in America, you ain't having a real conversation. And so when you talk about 400 plus years and you're only being technically free 53 years and you've been locked out consistently out of corporate America, I have actually met, which is sad, individuals who were the first African Americans.
He never really finishes a sentence. You ever really notice that? Like, when you look at the black mayor of Chicago and how he took care of things out there, he started to get government contracts that ushered in new changes, right? And also things back in 1973 used to be a little bit different when contracts were allocated to certain people of different races. But then when you turn around and the Bulls played the Knicks in 1972, and there was the rebound of the century back then that had perspired by your boy Rodman. See, Rodman had turned around, and that was one time North Korea had let Rodman over there. And North Korea is a whole nother situation because, nigga, where are we at in the story? Technically, he's still on topic, but god damn.
Ever work at major companies, and they got there